Gentlemen, a very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us today for another series of live webinar. Good evening to everyone who has joined us from the Middle East, Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh. Good afternoon to our viewers from the Europe, and a very good morning to everyone who has joined us from Canada, St. Kitts and Nevis, and rest of the Americas. We are honored to have with us today Mr. Les Khan, CEO for Citizenship by Investment Unit, St. Kitts and Nevis. Also, we have with us Mr. Imran Farooq, Group CEO of Samana Group of Companies. 𝐒𝐿𝐴 Associates is part of Samana Group. To tell you a little bit about the format of the webinar today, Mr. Les Khan will enlighten us about the program of Citizenship by Investment for St. Kitts and Nevis. And then Mr. Imran Farooq will tell us about the services 𝐒𝐿𝐴 Associates provides, and will also speak about the program. And later on, we will take questions. I would like to tell you that we will be taking questions in Arabic as well. You can post your questions throughout the webinar, and we will try to answer as many questions as possible. And if we are unable to answer your questions, you can leave your contact details and your email ID, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Also, you can reach us directly through our website, and we will get back to you. Without further ado, I would like to invite now Mr. Les Khan. He can share his insights about the program and how the program is performing in these testing times of COVID.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Samana Group and 𝐿𝐴. Pleasure to represent St. Kitts and Nevis and to speak about our Citizenship by Investment program. As many of you may be aware, that St. Kitts and Nevis is the oldest program in the world since 1984. The program was originally established to create foreign direct investment and to substitute for the sugar industry that failed during that period in time. Since 1984, the program has evolved, and other programs have joined and basically followed the same pattern and documentation requirements, etc., as the St. Kitts and Nevis program. We continue to evolve. We continue to adjust our program to meet clients' needs and to meet the competitive advantage, competition that is out there from other Caribbean islands and also from the European countries. To go a little into our program as it stands right now, there are two forms of investment. One is a real estate investment, which is divided into two categories, one being 200,000, the other being 400,000. The difference between the two is that 400,000 can be held, the holding period for that investment in real estate is 5 years before the property can be resold under the CBI program. The second option is 200,000, which can either be a share, which is a share certificate, or a title in joint tenancy. This holding period is now 7 years for the ability to resell. The second option of investment is in our Sustainable Growth Fund, which is 150,000 for a single application and 195 for a family of 4. That's our standard offering. However, about a month ago, we changed our regulations to allow for a limited time offer of 6 months to be able to offer 150,000 for up to 4 members of the family, the main applicant and 3 dependents. This is 150,000 non-refundable deposit. We expect this, and this will run until June. And we will expect a number of people to take advantage of this option versus the real estate. In addition, we are modifying our regulations as we speak to incorporate the addition of siblings. And that means a brother or sister of the main applicant or the spouse can be added for an additional fee. If it's the Sustainable Growth Fund, the additional fee will be 20,000. And if under the real estate, it will be 40,000 for the addition. So this makes our offering a real family-oriented offering that we can bring in the siblings. Now, there is a qualification for the sibling. The sibling must be the program and '56 visa-free countries or visa upon entry. This puts us at #1 in the CBI programs in the Caribbean.
Sorry to
and
interrupt you,
#1
Mr.
in the
Khan. We lost you there for
Caribbean.
some time. If you can repeat, please. We lost you for a couple of minutes
From
there.
which point?
When you started talking about adding the siblings.
Okay. So I'll come back to the addition of siblings. The quality. Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm sorry. Am I back online?
Yes, you are, sir.
Okay. I'll repeat the with
Mr. Leshan, I think I think there's a technical difficulty at your end. So let me take over for a few minutes. I think your bandwidth needs to come back. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Farouk, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, there is a technical difficulty. We have done an event 2 hours back. It was perfectly all right by that time. So I will take over for now. Basically, Mr. Leshan is the CEO of Citizenship by Investment Unit, and he was giving us a briefing. I'll just check. Is his internet this morning? Okay. Mr. Leshan, you could continue by from adding your sibling. That's where we were losing you, and then we'll continue from there.
Yeah, I apologize for this. Just the internet connections might be a little weak. So siblings, we got regulations to be approved by Cabinet, and we're in the midst of ensuring that the legal framework is in place for the addition of siblings. The siblings qualification would be up to the age of 30 and must be unmarried of either the main applicant or the spouse. The pricing of the siblings will be 20,000 for the Sustainable Growth Fund or 40,000 on the real estate side of the equation. Now, why would one want to invest in St. Kitts and Nevis, apart from being the legacy program and being the oldest and the most established and with the platinum brand? Well, there are other reasons. You know, we have the largest population of economic citizens, which means that somebody you know has citizenship in St. Kitts and Nevis. And that means that your friend or family trusted St. Kitts and Nevis, and we expect that you will trust us too, to grant you citizenship once you meet the requirements. With over 156 or almost 156 countries of visa-free and visa upon entry, we are the leader in the OECS, which is the islands that have CBI programs. And also, we rank number 2 in the Caribbean next to Barbados, making our quality of passport one of the highest ranked in citizenship programs in the Caribbean. In addition, when we look at the real estate option, we are probably the only island that has 5 branded hotels as part of our real estate offerings. And this ensures or confirms the integrity, the sustainability of the CBI program in St. Kitts and Nevis. We have the Park Hyatt, the Ramada Hotel, which will be open later this year, the 𝐒𝐭 Hotel, which is part of the Hilton brand, the Marriott Hotel and Residences, the Four Seasons would be our array of branded hotels. There are also a number of other boutique hotels, which such as the Hampton Beach Resorts out in Nevis. So we continue to enhance our real estate options in terms of offerings to our clients, and this makes us a very solid investment option for anyone investing in citizenship. I would have to say that during the pandemic, St. Kitts and Nevis was one of the first countries to lock down, and will probably be one of the last countries to open up. We are taking a very pragmatic and cautious approach to opening our borders, and we expect somewhere around October that we will most likely open up to the tourist business again. We've had about 15 cases, no deaths, and we've had a number of people in quarantine, and everyone has come out of quarantine. So this makes us one of the few places that has managed its COVID-19 pandemic in a very, very good, cautious manner. And as a result, the government will continue to ensure that we take an approach that protects all of the clients of all of the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. And we also trust that you are keeping safe, and that you and your family are not affected by the COVID at any point in time. So with that, I would leave it open to specific questions, because I know that there will be a lot on our program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Khan. Thank you for enlightening us today, and thank you. We appreciate your time. We will be taking questions a little later. I would like to invite now Mr. Farouk to tell us about the services 𝐿𝐿 Associates provides.
Thank you, Isha. Thank you, Mr. Mr. Leskhan, for your presentation. And I think we fought a technical glitch. So in an online world, these kind of things are happening. But sorry, audience, for that issue. But I think it was beyond our control. As I said, we did a session 2 hours back, and it went well. So maybe more users got onto internet in St. Kitts or something like that. So, okay. I will keep my presentation very short for a simple reason, because we could see that there are lots of questions coming in through various medium, and we need to jump straight away to Q&A, question and answer session, which is the most interesting part of our presentation and our nature of business. Just want to remind you, for those of you, I know most of you know 𝐿𝐴 very well. 𝐿𝐴 Group is the largest immigration company. We have 10,000 plus success stories, and we have team of experts. They're multilingual, so they speak English, Arabic, Persian, Russian, and most of the Hindi, Urdu, and most of the native languages. So if you have any specific problem, I see a lot of applicants saying that my situation is very different than the others. Yes, every situation is very unique. We would like to work on it, but we have done this 10,000 times over and again, at least, right? So the fact of the matter is, team is very trained, we're quite experienced, and the team would be able, the chances are that your very unique situation, the team has dealt with that kind of situation, whether you have a family related special case or funds related or things like that. We would be able to help you on anything. Just be straightforward, just be honest with the team. That is one thing which I really like to stress on the client. A lot of clients ask me, should I do this? Should I do this? I say one principle: be upfront, be straightforward. And that is one of the reasons why a misrepresentation can lead to rejection. That's what you need to do. And you need to do. We are registered international promoters, registered by St. Kitts, and we have the state-of-the-art ERP solution. So everything happening on your file is a live data. There's nothing we are going to work around things, or there's human interaction is minimal. So any progress on your application, every member of the team has an access. And by the time the Caribbean opens up, it's already 4 p.m. in Dubai, 4 or 5 p.m. in Dubai. 2 hours later, it's a time to shut down. But our Caribbean office is coordinating with the entire Caribbean transactions. And if there's any progress, it actually moves away. All the progress is updated in the ERP. So your team can straight away go and give you an update next day morning in your regional offices, whatever your office may be. So with this, we'll start the question and answer session. And Mr. Les Khan, I would take the liberty of adding on to your answers wherever it can help, because we work very closely with the client, so we can give our version also, just to add to your replies.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much, Mr. Farooq. We have got a lot of questions actually, so coming to the questions now. The first question that we have here is, and I would like to ask this question from Mr. Khan. Mr. Hanavi from Lebanon, he's asking that what are the new changes in the process during the pandemic?
At the early stages of the pandemic, we took the liberty of asking our agents to submit a limited number of documents. So there are about 5 or 6 documents that we asked that can be provided online, so that we can start the due diligence process or the application process. Those documents were essentially the birth certificate, the C1 forms, the marriage certificate, national IDs, copies of passports, essentially the documents that we are required or that we need to be able to send to our due diligence company so we can speed up the process. That has worked for us. We've seen a number of files coming in electronically. And the main caveat to all of this is that before the file is approved, we would expect that the full suite of documentation be submitted to the unit. We also relaxed a little on things like apostilles, and we said that if we get the documents notarized, we'll accept them. And we continue to see people taking advantage of that, and that's fine, because we do the due diligence process on what we have. This has allowed us to continue to keep a steady flow of applications coming into St. Kitts and Nevis. In fact, I think we are one of the leaders in the area and in terms of volume, if not the highest. We continue to process efficiently. My team here in St. Kitts and Nevis are considered an essential service. So while we do have the ability, and we've had people working from home, we really came into the office and ensured that everything was flowing. This continues to be the case right now, and the turnaround time that we're seeing in applications, and even in spite of the COVID, has been consistent in terms of our timelines. So I think the moves that we've made, the changes that and adjustments that we made, has ensured that files are flowing as steadily as possible.
All right, thank you so much. That really helps. Another question that I would like to ask you, Mr. Khan, is from our client who is from Syria, and he wants to know that, are you adding new visa-free countries to the list, like China or any other countries?
At this point in time, with 156 countries, we are the highest in the number of visa-free countries. Our diplomatic corps, led by Minister Brantley, who is the Minister of Foreign Affairs, continues to work with the various diplomatic organizations and through the different countries to try to expand this. At this point, I'm unable to tell you exactly which ones they are, but I am expecting that soon, within this year, we will be ranked #1 in the Caribbean, ahead of Barbados. So we continue to expand our diplomatic needs, and we are able to, expand, and as soon as people can travel, we'll be seeing a lot more movement in that direction.
And I think it's important to know for everybody, as a thumb rule, except Canada, US, most of the countries you want to travel, most likely 99% of those countries are covered. So broadly, the entire Europe, UK, Far Eastern zone, so all of that is covered anyways, and 156 is a lot. We need to do a reverse count of how many are left out.
Exactly. Thank you, Imran.
Mr. Imran, I would like to direct this question to you. We have Mr. Khalid here, who wants to understand that if he wants to transfer the government payments through AAA Associates, how we can help him.
We are a registered international promoter, and and we are dealing with the registered agent. So you can transfer to AAA, and AAA can transfer to the agent directly, or we can send it to the government. So that's all doable. So some clients have a difficulty. Ideally, you can transfer it to the government account. That is the most ideal way. But in case if the clients has some issues with their banking, or they are outside Dubai, I think these problems don't come in Dubai. This question must be from some other outside Dubai. So if there is a foreign exchange limitation, you could come to our office and swipe your card or pay us in Dubai, and it will reach the government of St. Kitts.
All right. In another question that I would like to ask you is, Mr. Imran, that the client is asking that I have seen on your website that you have an office in Dominica. Can we expect to have a St. Kitts office as well?
Yeah, as far as we are concerned, we're in process of setting up an office in St. Kitts. There is a requirement, so we have to hire one St. Kitts citizen from a professional background. And I think that we will be opening an office in less than 90 days.
Wonderful. All right. Again, we have a lot of questions here, and we will try to answer as many as possible. I would like to tell our viewers that if you are unable to answer any questions, you can leave your details in the comments with your question, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Mr. Khan, this question, I would like to ask this question from you. Our clients are asking that, is there any chance that St. Kitts will lose visa waiver agreement with other countries? You have given some details about it already, but if you could answer this question again, sir.
I think, you know, we're working, the risk of losing visa-free countries access would be coming from the EU, if anything at all. And I think it would not be about St. Kitts and Nevis, it will be the Caribbean at all, of all the Caribbean islands in that particular case. We are working very closely with the EU and the OECD to ensure, and so are the other islands, to ensure that they understand the CBI programs, and that the CBI programs are not tax evasion or anti-money laundering programs. That our due diligence is really very solid, and that this is a necessity for the maintenance of the economies of these countries. So I have not heard or had any direct statements that anybody is going to be losing any visa-free. And I think, you know, with the strong due diligence that we all have, and St. Kitts in particular, you know, we will continue to educate the powers that be and lobby to ensure that this does not happen. So I'm not aware of any of losing any visa-free access. And I think, as I said, we continue to try to increase the number of visa-free access we have.
And one thing is, people always talk about losing, and in past 35 years, you've lost what, Canada? That's the only
Canada loss. Yes.
Yeah. So visa-free access to Canada has been lost, but in exchange, 20 odd countries have been added, or a lot more countries have been added. I think the list goes on and on. So the risk of losing is not as significant as the number keeps jumping. The 156 was not 2 years 156, and if you compare it with 5 years back, it was about 135. So the countries keep getting added.
Thank you for the insight, Mr. Farouk. Getting to the next question, Mr. Farouk, I would like to direct this question to you. We have a question from Mr. Fadul. He is from Morocco, and he's asking that, what is the guarantee that my passport is handed over to me personally?
Personally. Basically, it goes with our reputation. Because he's in Morocco, that's the reason he's asking this question. If he comes and sees our setup, the setup we are doing this video conferencing from happens to be 18,000 square feet. So that's the setup. We have a very large footprint in this market and other markets of the world. So if you come here, we are government registered international promoter. Mr. Les Khan, head of the CEO of Citizenship by Investment Unit, is right here. If you get the passport approval following all the procedures, the passport will come to us and he can personally collect it from Dubai, or it can be couriered to him.
All right. We have multiple questions here. We have a question from Mr. Hani Zedan. He's asking that, and I would like to ask this question from Mr. Khan. He's asking, is this passport renewable and can be given to the next generations?
Yeah, so the passports are renewable, and you don't need to come to St. Kitts to collect it. Neither do you need to come to St. Kitts and Nevis to renew it. I believe the first passport that you get is a 5-year, if not a 10-year passport. Now, once someone obtains citizenship, all right, they can transfer their citizenship down through their to their lineage. There is no restriction on generations. So you have a child, the child qualifies for citizenship and they will get their passport. Now that we're passing legislation on siblings, as long as the siblings are unmarried and under the age of 30, they qualify for citizenship. So the passports can be obtained. If you get married, obviously you can add your spouse thereafter, gets citizenship. That spouse, parents can qualify, and their children or their siblings can qualify. So it's not generational, and it can be expanded once an individual has citizenship.
All right. The same client is asking another question, and the question is, do I need to make any further investments like buying land or flat or any other things?
Well, once you invest in one of our options, which is either the Sustainable Growth Fund or the real estate, that's your investment qualification. Now, we would encourage people to come to St. Kitts and invest and invest in other mechanisms, land if they want and so on, but it's not a requirement. We encourage our new citizens to invest in the country. And if that's what they would like to do, they want to open a business, they want to invest in other sub-businesses, we welcome that, because that's the whole idea behind economic citizenship. That's the whole idea behind CBI, which is to create a situation where our economic citizens.
All right, thank you so much. I hope this answers Mr. Mani's question.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, sir, please continue.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that we encourage our economic citizens to invest in the country, and this means other investments.
If somebody's making a large investment, do they have a special preferential things like tax-free or a waiver on import duties and things like that? Do they
those are things that will have to be negotiated with the various ministries. I can't talk about that, but I'm sorry. So I'm saying we encourage them. There will be other opportunities, and we can create opportunities and concessions as we go forward.
And general belief, people have this general belief that you're getting a second-rate citizenship. How would you respond to that kind of comments?
I don't see it as a second-rate citizenship. You know, it's interesting, and I draw you to one thing that is happening right now. Under the COVID scenario, we're seeing a lot more applications coming in from America. And this is something that we didn't see. And now you have to recognize the American passport is not as valuable as, you know, it was a year or two ago. They cannot travel freely. So obviously Americans are looking to St. Kitts and Nevis to obtain citizenship to get the second passport to be able to travel. So I would say the value of our passport has just gone up.
Yes, that's true. I read that article in Bloomberg. I think it came 3-4 days back that record number of Americans are surrendering their passport and moving out. So yeah, so I think this pandemic could be a big benefit for St. Kitts and the neighboring Caribbean countries. Huh?
Well, I'm seeing the application, so I can attest to that. And it's not necessarily about giving up citizenship. It's just about having
Yes, you should.
Second passport.
The next question is for you, Mr. Farouk. The question is, once I start the process, what is the guarantee that the documents I submit are not shared with anyone and are kept confidential?
Basically, we are over this concern about 8 years back. So when the systems, and that's where it is very important when you select your consultant, is you need to make sure how your applications are being dealt. So we have a very high confidentiality rules within the organization. Secondly, your applications are electronically dealt. So when you submit your original, it goes to the CIU. But all the records are digitally handled and all our digital data is encrypted. So the risk is between only the person who's handling your application or citizenship by investment unit. So it's a very minimal risk.
All right. The next question is, Mr. Khan, I would like to ask this question from you. The question is, what is the risk that the government will change their plan if I already apply and I receive the passport?
When you said change the plan, are you referring to the fact that maybe the person might get their citizenship canceled?
No, I would like to clarify what probably a lot of people have concern is they apply and you withdraw your program, citizenship by investment program.
I have to state and reiterate that once you are a citizen, you are a citizen, regardless of whether you got citizenship by naturalization or through the citizenship by investment program. If the program ceases, anyone who qualified and went through our process is and will be a citizen. There cannot be legally, there cannot be any withdrawal. It's in the Constitution. You are a citizen.
All right.
And I think this is my favorite question also, because again, people are concerned that what if the government changes policy? What if they want to withdraw my passport? What if they want to withdraw my citizenship? First of all, your citizenship cannot be withdrawn unless you have done a major security threat to the nation, right? So the first thing is very clear. You are a full-fledged citizen. There's no second-grade citizenship, number one. Number two, when you apply and your citizenship is, if the government decides, government has a full right to withdraw the program. But you have to understand, at the end of the day, it's a product, it's a business, right? And these donations form a very big part of the budgets, right? So it's not easy to withdraw also. But let's look at a remote scenario where it gets withdrawn. What's going to happen? All the commitment will be dealt with. First of all, if you've got the passport, please get clear your system. Nobody's going to come back and say passport program is gone. Give me my citizenship back. It cannot happen legally. It cannot happen. It can right. Number one. Number two, all the comfort letters which are issued that you finish your investment and you'll get your passport will be dealt, because nothing can happen on any given day. There has to be a process. So something which is going on from 1984, which is the oldest program of the world, and more nations are coming and copying the product, and more European countries are now coming and asking for this investment, so they give you a permanent residence visa or passport. So we don't see, as an industry expert, we don't see risk that any of this program would be withdrawn. So less how much?
Yeah, I could not have said it any better, but I will reiterate again, constitutionally, once you are a citizen, you are a citizen. You know, we've had situations where, you know, someone after they got citizenship, about, after 5-10 years, they committed an act in the US, for example. They might, let's say they killed somebody. That person still is a citizen, and the government will protect that person and give the person the full legal rights that that person has gotten. So we will protect. We've had cases where, maybe someone was wanted by another government. The government protected that person because that person is a citizen. He's not an economic citizen in the sense of the word. He is a citizen and entitled to all the rights and protections of the country. It's in the Constitution. So there is no withdrawing citizenship for any reason that can come up. Other than, I'll tell you too, if the person lied during the citizenship application process, yes, citizenship can be withdrawn if they lied. If the person is considered a security risk to the country and to its international partners, yes, citizenship can be withdrawn. But in those cases, we generally just withdraw the passport. The person is still a citizen, but we withdraw the passport because the passport is not a right. The passport is a privilege. So if the person has committed some crime or done something wrong, then they don't deserve that privilege, and we will withdraw the passport. So somebody shows up on Interpol, we have these situations, we look at it and we make that judgment call.
All right, thank you so much, gentlemen. I can see that there are some people who have just joined in, and I would like to ask them to leave their details in the comments, and we will get back to them as soon as possible. The next question we have, Mr. Farouk, I would like to direct this question to you. The question is, I want to clarify if all AAA investments is government project and supported by the government.
No, I wouldn't say that your investment is secured or protected or supported by the government. These are independent approved projects, and these approved projects are through a criteria and through an objective, right? So first of all, the government wants investment to come in the tourism sector. So when you invest in a tourism sector, straight away you're creating job, because there's construction, there's large facilities, there's imports happening. So it is a direct benefit. You're creating job. Once these projects are delivered, there is a lifelong job creation, because now the resort needs to be maintained, the resort needs to be operated, and it is bringing in tourism. So that's the objective of the government. Your protection comes through an escrow account, right? And I'll ask Mr. Leskan to talk more about the escrow account after I finish. And your protection is through escrow account. So every single penny you are paying to the developer is going into an escrow account, and the government controls the withdrawal of that escrow account. So it is not possible you pay, for sake of discussion, $200,000. A month later, the entire $200,000 is disappeared, and there is no construction happening. Mr. Leskan, I would like you to brief everyone about the escrow account and controls.
Absolutely. So just to reiterate what Imran has said, obviously the projects approved under the developer got approval to be able to sell or raise capital for his development through private development. And so we need to stress that. The second part of this is that the government over the last couple of years has implemented certain controls, and one of those controls is the escrow bill. We passed an escrow bill a couple of years ago, and the whole intention is to protect the client, all right? So now not everybody can be an escrow agent. Who can be an escrow agent? It is regulated by our financial regulatory body. And the individuals who are performing escrows are audited on a quarterly basis. This ensures that there's no conflict of interest, that when the client's money is put into escrow, that it is in a safe place and the funds will be released. We are working, and recently we got approval from Cabinet to implement a payout schedule, which means that now or in the very near future, all developers are required, both new and old, will be required to have a payout schedule on their escrow agreements, which means it's based on construction. Now, St. Kitts Nevis is the only island in the Caribbean to have an escrow bill that supports and protects the client, and we continue to strengthen that because we feel that the client's money and the client's interest needs to be protected in some form or fashion. And the other side of this, we want to make sure that the client's money is used for the intention, which is construction. Our tourist business, as Imran said, is dependent on construction, and it's the hotels that are going to be opened later this year and in the future will all support the economy. The jobs that are going to be created has to be assured, and one way is through the escrow bill. And as I said, we're the only island that is providing this protection for our investors.
That is great. I'm sure that'll be very good for clients. Now, we have a client here, name is Mr. Tony. Mr. Tony has asked a series of questions. I would like to ask this question from Mr. Farouk. Mr. Tony is asking, would you assist in gathering required papers and documents on my behalf?
No, we cannot produce papers. It is your personal file. There's not a single paper except police report where we and medical. These are the two steps which we assist you very much. So a staff member will go to you, go with you to the CID headquarters, and all the forms, everything will be ready, and for the medical report. So appointment will be arranged and the doctor's visit can be handled. But besides that, everything is to do with you. It's your birth certificate, your marriage certificate, your property document, your bank statement, your kid's birth certificate. So we can't help you there, but the translation and all, we can help you there.
All right, okay. From the same client, there are a series of questions, and the rest of the questions I would like to ask Mr. Khan. Mr. Tony is asking that being citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis, is education free, and how is the education ranking? Same questions for healthcare, if the healthcare is free, and how is the healthcare ranking?
Okay, so on the education front, the primary school education is free, okay, until you get to tertiary, which is the universities and so on, then you have to pay. On the health care side, I would have to say that the healthcare is practically free. I have taken advantage of it, and you pay a minimum cost when you go to the hospital or so on. One would find that the healthcare in St. Kitts is one of the best. We have doctors coming from around the world. We have doctors coming from Cuba. A lot of our doctors, locals, are educated in Cuba to become doctors. So things are getting much better, and our infrastructure as a small island is improving as we speak. And the thing about it is that the funds generated from the CBI program is being utilized to improve the standards within the health, within the education, within the infrastructure of the country. You can see it everywhere you go on the island. So yes, I would say it's pretty high standards in both cases.
And the world-class beaches are also free.
Yes.
I hope this answers all the questions Mr. Tony had.
Isha, I would like Mr. Leshan to give us a comparison between donation client and property investment client. So, and what is the difference? How does this department looks at it?
In fact, we have a question for this as well. So yeah, that would be great.
Okay, so I will start off by saying, once an application comes into the unit, we don't differentiate between the two. The files are processed the same way through due diligence, through the vetting, and so on. But the requirements are different in terms of through the fund and through the real estate. In the fund, you have to remember that this is a non-refundable deposit. But the only thing required is all of the forms. In the real estate side of the equation, the standard, we need to have purchase and sale agreement for the development or the developer that you are investing in. We need to see a escrow agreement that confirms that your funds are going to be in escrow. Those are the two primary things and only things that differ from the fund. Now, in terms of the real estate, I am aware that there would be financial terms, there might be rental income type of agreements and so on that a developer might be offering to the client. These are commercial terms and non-government required documents. But I will have to say to you, make sure that your documents protect yourself. The government cannot protect you with commercial terms. We will protect you with the investment of 200,000 or 400,000 and through our escrow agreements. These are the two differences between those two investments and the documentation requirements.
So basically, there is no difference in a processing time between the two applications as far as the department is concerned, and you don't give priority to donation over investment.
Absolutely not. But I will tell you that, you know, with the limited time offer that is being there right now, you know, we will expect that the volumes will increase. And, you know, we had a similar situation a couple of years back where we created a separate stream for the real estate transactions versus what we had at the time, which was the Hurricane Fund. So nobody really experienced any disadvantage. And we're able to do that. I think we have one of the largest teams in the Caribbean in terms of citizenship by investment unit. I have over 40 staff, and they're all cross-trained and able to swing from one area to another area very easily. And this provides the efficiency side of our process, which brings us to the point where we are the only island that offers an accelerated application process. And it's because of this.
Wonderful. Mr. Farouk, I would like to ask you to share your insights as well. How do you look at it as a businessman?
Sorry, you want my advice as what?
Your insights about the pros and cons versus investment, you being a businessman yourself.
Obviously, when it's a donation, you're writing off $150,000, right? So that becomes a hard, difficult decision because you're writing off more in excess of $500,000 dirham. So I, as a businessman, would like to say, okay, I would invest the $200,000 into real estate and pay the relevant fee. That will work because number one, you're investing, you're not writing off your money. Secondly, once these resorts are open, there is a projection. You can expect your rental income. And thirdly, you have an address in a country. So tomorrow, if somebody asks you, how did you get a passport? There's a difference between you say I paid a donation versus you invested into a property. And it's an asset which goes on and on. And if I have I've traveled to Caribbean quite a few times. One thing always gives me a shock is the hotel rates. The hotel are quite expensive compared to America is cheap, but compared to Europe also, it's quite expensive. And there is a demand still for higher end hotels, which are entering. So fact of the matter is that if we look at the projection of these resort projects, some of these resorts offer excellent returns. So the projections are quite high.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Farouk. This is the last question that we will be taking today. We have a lot of questions still pending, but I would like to ask this question from Mr. Les Khan. Remaining questions, we will try to answer all the questions to our clients via email. If you can leave your email address and your contact details, we will get back to you. The question is, Mr. Khan, it is from Mr. Majestic, and he's asking that if I want to apply for a passport, but do not have the funds, can my father sponsor the application, subject is that he does not want to apply himself? He will go through the due diligence still?
Yes, we are one of the few places that offer sponsorship, that the individual can be sponsored by someone. And the only thing we ask is that the sponsor go through due diligence. We must go through the due diligence process, and we have to validate his proof of funds and source of funds. Once we go through that, he does not have to be an applicant. Is passed, that qualifies the individual, and he can get his citizenship through that fashion.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Khan. Thank you, Mr. Farouk. Thank you for your time today. It was a wonderful discussion. I hope we answered as many questions as possible today.
Thank you, Isha. Thank you, Mr. Les Khan, for your time, for your time and valuable. You've answered quite a few questions, and thank you, Dubai or United Arab Emirates, for participation. If your questions are not answered, please approach your consultant at your relevant office, and they will take up the application. The counselings and all is absolutely free of charge, no commitment based.
Well, thank you for having me here. It was my pleasure to represent St. Kitts Nevis and to give as much information as possible. I look forward to hearing from everyone in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone.